Let's kind of just kick this thing off. So, hey everybody, it's really great to have you here. Thanks for deciding to join us. So I'm going to just quickly do an intro here, then I'm going to hand things over to Marcello, who's our special guest, and he's going to show us some pretty cool stuff with this exciting new technology, Rhino.Inside. So as you can kind of see, we're doing things a little bit different today. RoMBIS has typically been an evening in-person thing, and with COVID, we're testing out this lunch and learn format. And we've got Marcello to take advantage of this, who's actually dialing in all the way from California. So that's pretty cool. Let's move this over. So I see a few new faces in attendance. So I just want to, show the slide off. Basically, it's a quick overview of what RoMBIS is. And, in a nutshell, we're a design and construction technology group. We're a bunch of enthusiasts, and we try to meet up every other month or so, once a month, depends. Times are weird. And we talk about new topics like Rhino.Inside and technology, and we learn from each other, network, that kind of stuff. So if you're interested and you're not, we have a Slack channel, and we really welcome you to join us. I think there were some issues with getting people signed up in the past months. So if you are not signed up on our Slack channel and you want to be, and you have an issue getting this, if you want to message me, I can send you a direct invite. So just a quick introduction to the RoMBIS steering committee. These are the people that kind of make this event happen. We've got Brian Mackey. I saw that he RSVP'd. I don't know if he's on yet or if he's going to be able to make it, but he's kind of one of our founders. We've got Tobias and then Jason, who is actually moving. He's moving to Iowa. I don't know if I'm supposed to share that, but so we're about to lose Jason, which is kind of sad. Joe, I saw you're on the call.
Good afternoon.
Hey, Joe. And then we've got Ian with Master Graphics. Hey, Ian.
Hey there.
Awesome. Carlo is doing something really cool right now. He's actually, I think he's on his honeymoon. I might be wrong on that, but so he's not going to be with us today. Then we've got Devin. Devin's on the line. Devin, you just had a job change too, right?
Yep, and we'll update the slide a little bit more. It's lean enterprise consultant. So what does it mean? Who knows? We'll see. But look for more on that later.
Very cool. Well, you'll have to share with us a little more about that sometime.
Definitely.
Then we've also got Allison, who is out on maternity leave. She should be getting back soon, though. So we look forward to having the crew back. All right. So let's go ahead and kick this thing off. This is Marcello that is going to be presenting to us today. Marcello is really well known in the industry. This is a guy that has been a fixture at a lot of different design technology conferences, not the least being AU. If you've ever seen one of his presentations, you know he's a really smart dude, and he's always doing really crazy, cool stuff with applications like Revit and Dynamo. And his latest thing that he's really latched onto has been Rhino.Inside.Revit. And I'll go ahead and hand this over to Marcello and let him tell you about this and show you what this really cool new technology is. So Marcello, I'm going to stop sharing.
Am I up?
And you are up.
Okay.
The stage is yours.
Hello, everybody. Hello, Denver or Denver area. Rocky Mountain area. How's that sound?
There you go.
Okay. Hello. Hi, Ian. All right. I'll make this informal. If you want to, hey, Devin. All right. Hey, Devin. Hi. All right. If you, let's make this informal. If you have a question. Hey, there's Brian. Hey. Hey, Brian. Okay. So, yeah, I know all these folks. if you have a question, just pop on, turn on your mic or turn on your camera. I'm in the middle of working right now, so if you can just give me 1 second.
Should also point out, Marcello's a big family man in there and has several of his kids around, so we might see them popping in and out of the shot too.
Yeah, I think he's actually going to be co-presenting with them. So it's going to be really interesting.
Okay, I'm back. Sorry, talk about informal, huh? I've got a lot going on here, including some distance learning with the kids. Okay, but I'm back. All right, so, all right. Yeah, okay, so it's good to see some familiar faces, and have questions, pop on and turn on your mic or turn on your camera. I don't care. If you've noticed, I'm in my home office in Southern California. So yes, those are lightsabers in the background. If you were wondering. It's a little nerdy, but that's okay. All right. So, all right. Can everyone hear me okay? You can hear me okay, right, Anthony? And see me?
Yes, I can.
Just fine, just fine. Okay, perfect. Whew. All right, let's do it. Welcome to the first lunchtime presentation, I understand. Maybe we'll do this more often. It's actually 11 o'clock for me. But all right, thanks for joining us. Okay, so let's do it. So we're talking, before I get into the formal presentation, I did think, I just thought about this. If this is RoMBIS, maybe we should build a RoMBIS in Revit. How does that sound? So let me share my screen and we'll kick things off. So let's see here. Can you see my screen? It's my Twitter. I just made an announcement.
It looks good.
Okay, here's Revit. If you want to make a RoMBIS, easy peasy. You can go to your massing, in place mass. It's one way to do it. All right, just pop down I guess technically it would be a rectangular base. I'll just get as close as I can. There. Close enough. All right.
You might be sharing a different screen because we're still seeing your PowerPoint slide.
Oh, I must have the other.
Yeah.
Let's have the other screen. Okay. Yeah. Let's do that again. Hang on. Hang on a second. Let's see here. Thank you for that. Okay, we'll do that again. We'll try it again. There we go. Okay. Can you see my Revit now?
Look
All right.
good.
Yeah, I was gonna have to explain it in words. Go to Revit, do an in-place mass. That's one way to do it. Okay, and then now I got to go up. Now I got to start all over again. Make a rectangle. I suppose it has a rectangular base. We could have an academic discussion about that in the future. Just click on it and say create form. Pull this up, pull it over, and you got a RoMBIS. Okay, there we go. Good enough? All right, easy peasy. Okay, so let's start the formal presentation from the current slide. There we go. You can see it, right? Getting started with Revit. I figure this should be a little informal because I'm talking to a user group. I've talked on this topic probably 10 times this year already. So I'd like to kind of figure out which way we should head on this topic because it's pretty broad. But anyway, we'll just play it out. Like I said, turn on your mic and shout out or whatever, or type in the chat if you have a question. Anthony, you could probably monitor that if we have any questions. All righty.
Yeah, I'll keep an eye on that.
Yeah, sure. Let's do it. Okay. That was a slide about me, but I think you already gave an awesome intro, Anthony. Okay, just kind of push software to its limits. Here's some families I built in the past in Revit, some project I worked on in the past. More recent one was Frank Geary's house in Santa Monica, technically Marina del Rey. There's the Walt Disney Concert Hall. I've worked on a lot of large projects in the past. I have a website called simplycomplex.org. It's kind of a media site. It's got a blog site, a comic, although comic's less popular. I might be shutting that down soon because it doesn't get a lot of hits. But anyway, check it out if you like. And then coming soon, I've got a Dynamo reference manual and a Rhino Inside reference manual. You can just kick over to simplycomplex.org, click that link, and you can sign up for updates if you'd like. I'm getting in about a month or a month and a half for it to be finished, and I'll show you some samples later. Okay, what is Rhino Inside? I won't go too much into this, but the McNeel people are the ones who actually make it. They're the ones who make Rhino and the ones who make the add-in Rhino Inside. So if you Google it, they've done a lot of presentations already. They kind of talk more about like how it kind of works in the background. Today, I'm going to talk more about the practical side of it. Okay. And so let's just go through these really quick. What's the issue? And please chime in if you felt these pain points. Okay. What's the issue? We've got Rhino, right? So typically in a design office, a lot of the design is done in Rhino, which is a 3D modeling program, or maybe SketchUp. Does anyone want to chime in and tell me if they've used Rhino in their office? Maybe some yeses or some, I can't see the chat, maybe some nothing. Anyone familiar with Rhino? We have a little interaction. You can do it while it's virtual. I believe that. Let me see here. Oh, there we go. Okay, I was able to, yes, okay. Caesar, way in the past, back in the day, we use it a bit. Okay, good enough. At least you know what it is. At least you've heard of it. Familiar with Rhino, not working knowledge. You're gonna have to dissect that a bit more for me, Lee. Don't really know what you mean there, but okay. So if you're familiar with it, familiar from school, good. Okay, so typically take a snapshot in the industry. Rhino, which is a 3D modeling program, is used for a lot of the design, not Revit. It doesn't have to be Rhino. Sometimes it's SketchUp. I guess in some cases it might be Formit. So this is kind of like what typically happens in an office. Well, the problem is that, okay, so what's the problem? The problem is that you have Revit, right? Which is a BIM software, which is a modeling tool, a documentation tool, and a 3D coordination tool. But if all the designs are happening early on in Rhino, not in Revit, well, you got to get them over there, right? So that's the problem we have. And so it's a big problem in our industry. Would anyone agree? We use taking Rhino and remodeling that work in Revit. Okay, who said that? Alex. Oh, good. Okay, hold on to that. Typically, this, Alex, right, is a typical workflow to solve this problem, right? You have Rhino and you remodel the darn thing from scratch in Revit. I would say this is probably the most common use, which seems like absolute insanity in 2020. I think it is extremely common, as Alex has pointed out, and very difficult. Yes, that's one option. Another option is imports, right? Maybe an SAT, maybe a DWG, maybe an STL, whatever. Some kind of import. I should probably put under here unintelligent import, right? Because a lot of times this will come in as lost, intelligent lost, and the whole point of being into Revit is that it's evil. So this is another option companies use. Shout out if these are organizations use. Another option is to use an add-in. There's not a market. Rhino is more to convey, to shrimp, and on and on. I'm sure it's just me too. My microphone's very happy. Let me get it a little because I'm moving around. You have to say like,
Uh-oh.
I know. I had this set up as like a boom camera, but okay, hold on. We'll figure it out.
You're sounding great now.
Okay, is that better?
Yes, much better.
That's way better? Okay, I'm not breaking up, Anthony? Sounds like
Not
a
at all.
connection issue.
Yeah, I
Is
think
not-
there's connection,
good?
not the mic.
Oh, so that's a Rocky Mountain issue or a Southern California issue?
I'm guessing a Southern California issue. but-
Okay. Must be all the wildfires. Okay.
But you sound
all right.
great now, so
I
carry
sound
on.
great now. Okay. Okay. Continue. Where were we? Maybe we lost my train of thought. Add-ins. Okay. So these are the three typical methods to deal with this, right? Problem is you need to get modeling 3D modeling tools in Revit, right? Why? Because we gotta be able to coordinate and document the darn thing. Okay. Pretty straightforward there. Sadly, like you said, remodel from scratch. Why do we have to do that? Okay. Anyway, the McNeel company who makes Rhino said, well, we understand the issue. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually take the whole thing and ship right into Revit. Entire Rhino program, which also includes Grasshopper. We're going to shove it inside Revit, and we're going to call it anyone? I'll wait for answers.
Rhino and Revit. Rhino
Yes,
and
who
Revit.
was that? Who was that?
Huge.
Brian, yes. Rhino Inside Revit. Let's call it Rhino Inside Revit. So what is Rhino Inside Revit? It's Rhino Inside Revit. That's what Rhino Inside Revit is. Is that clear to
Very
everybody?
clever.
I'm gonna
Clever
let you,
naming.
I'm gonna let you, I'll let that sink in for a second. And I'll be back in 5 seconds. Johnny, are you out here? Okay. So I don't know what it is anymore, right? Okay. It runs right inside Revit. The whole program, the whole thing, the whole program. This is the biggest add-in Revit has ever had. It's the biggest one. What's the biggest one before this? I don't know, Dynamo, maybe? Who's talking? Is that Brian? Ron? Who said, what did
I
you
said
say?
the ribbon. They changed the
The
ribbon.
ribbon. The ribbon's an add-in, I suppose. Anyway, the point is, I mean, why does an add-in have to be just, something small? It could be something big, right? So the entire Rhino program is an add-in. Wow. What does that mean? That means that you can basically have access to all of Rhino. I'm going to call it Rhinoceros now because it's just Rhino and Revit together. In this sense, I start in Rhino and Revit. Don't say Rhinoceros, which is technically the official name. Okay, so the idea is you have access to all of Rhinoceros's geometry kernel. They also run inside Revit, so it's easy to pass information back and forth between Revit because it's running inside of Revit. Okay, fair enough. Another cool thing is it brings along its friend called Grasshopper. Sound is so bad. Still cutting in and out. Yikes.
You're okay now, but it seems like it's like periodic. Goes
Yeah.
on for like a few seconds, and then you're fine, and then back to
Marcello,
bad.
when you get automated or animated, that's when it goes bad.
You know what?
Good luck.
I better stop moving. Is that the problem?
Good luck.
Okay, I'll try my best, but you might have to. The animation comes along with inviting me to speak, so we'll just have to deal with that. Okay, where were we? Fine. Enough about what it is. All right. So here's the idea. What you can do is you can take Rhino, okay, any part of it or the entire model. You pass it through Grasshopper, which becomes the conduit to then pass the useful geometry into Revit. Okay, so I'll give you this example really quick. So let's say in Rhino you built some kind of surface that's supposed to be topography. Well, you pass that into Grasshopper, okay, and with just 6 nodes, you can turn that surface into topography in Revit. Now, when it comes in Revit, it is not a dumb SAT. It is not a blob import on the topography category. It is actual topography element. So if you were to click on this, it would actually be a topography element. So it could host entourage and trees and so on and so on. That's what it means by meaningful geometry, right? Because before, we had to deal with this business, right? We're just an SAT or DWG import. You get unintelligent blobs. And that might work every once in a while, but if you need to coordinate and document, it's not going to cut it. All right, so everyone with me now? That's kind of the method. We get it? I'll show you some examples.
Yes, get it.
Okay, yeah, I mean, that's it. I could end the talk right now, but let's see some examples. Okay, let me tell you what it is not. Oh, let's see some examples. Okay, let me tell you what it is not. Okay, it is not an easy button. All right, I'm just warning everybody with new tech. I don't know what it is with new tech, and people think that it's going to solve their problems and change the oil in their car. I don't know what it is about that, but let me just be realistic about what it is and what it is not. It's not an easy button. You're not going to download it and hit one button. It's not going to take all your elements, convert them without any effort on your part, and it's not going to, and then it's not going to make all your documentation perfect without you checking it over. It's not going to eliminate every RFI in your project, and it's not going to eliminate every change order. Should I go on? It's also not going to give you a bonus check. It's also not going to give you a promotion immediately. Should I go on? Everyone understand what I'm saying? Okay. So
wait a sec. This doesn't give me a promotion?
No, it might eventually, but if you click this button, it's not going to solve every problem known to humankind. I guess that's what I'm saying. And sometimes when new technology comes out, the idea is that it will solve every problem known to humankind, at least in AEC. And that's not the case. Okay, so there is going to be some work. This arrow that I show right here, there needs to be some effort in there. But once the effort gets put in, it's a beautiful thing. Make me a sandwich. That would be awesome, see? Yeah, exactly. The 3D model sandwich. I love it. Okay, so I think about it this way. One more slide, and then we'll do the examples. Okay, Rhino.Inside.Revit's a piece of gold, but you have to shape it yourself as the user. That's all I'm saying. Okay. It won't come prepackaged where it eliminate all your RFIs, and it will not coordinate your model for you. Sorry, I'm going on and on, but you get it. Okay, so how do we get started? Okay, this is how it works. Basically, if you own Rhinoceros, a version of Rhinoceros, you can get the add-in for free. Basically, right now, it is technically still in beta form. Because they're still working on it, because it is relatively new. It only really hit the public like late last year. But anyway, the McNeel people are being careful about it. So it is still in beta. So if that bothers anybody, you can, I don't, it doesn't bother me, quite honestly. And any Dynamo users here? Yes, no, smiley faces, sad faces. Dynamo, if you're a Dynamo user, you were probably using it in beta format for a long time before you used it, but that didn't hold you up, right? Also, aren't schematic drawings beta versions of the construction drawings? Right, so from AEC, the beta concept is not new to us. So if you have a problem working with beta versions, then, scrap your schematic drawings and don't look at them if you're a consultant from the architect, because you have a problem with beta versions. But if you don't have a problem with beta versions, which I hope you don't, then you can be able to explore this technology. Is that clear to everybody? Yeah? Beta versions. Crystal. Okay. So maybe we should talk to the AIA and change schematic drawings to beta version drawings. What do you think? Think they'd go for it? AIA? They change their mind easily? Is that what I understand? Maybe not. Maybe not. They sure do. I thought so. Thought so. Okay. All right. Enough about that. So beta version, you get it for free. All right. Good enough. All right. So what you can do, there's a website here. Just Google it. Rhino, have it installed, get the link. You're ready to go. Basically. Okay. So let's talk about interoperability, and then we'll do some examples. Okay. Here's why you have to do some work. Okay. If you automatically said to Rhino Inside, take my Rhino model and convert it to Revit, well, what would it do? It'd say, well, what is this red surface? What do you want this to be in Revit, right? You want Rhino to decide that for you, or would you want to tell it, actually, you know what, that surface, I want that to be a topography element. And then, for example, this is a project where it's got a sloping ramp and some parking and a curved ramp and a little pad up here, right? So then it'd be like, okay, well, what do you want this to be in Revit? Do you want this to be a parking pad? No, I want it to be a floor. Okay, well then, let's make it a floor, right? And so on. Do you understand how you need to do some work? You need to basically tell Rhino what you want this to be and how you want it to manifest inside of Revit. That's the work you have to do. I mean, but it's obvious to us, right? But some people don't quite get that concept, because it's like, why can't I just push a button and it all go in? Well, sure you could, but you want Rhino, you want the McNeel people deciding what these should be. Everyone kind of clear where I'm going with this? Yeah? Now you could be like, I'll map this once, and then next time I won't ever map it again. No, right? Nah. Well, you know what? It makes more sense that this is a roof element, not a floor element. Okay? Is that going to be up to some judgment? Maybe so, right? Maybe you want this to be in the road category. Ooh, right? Maybe you want this to be a foundation pad. No, I want it to be a floor. Okay? So there you go. So this is very important, that you need to make these decisions. And particularly if you are modeling this in Rhino, you need to tell your Rhino modelers, if it's not also the Revit modeler, listen, everything you model in here, be conscious of what this should be inside of Revit. Because now I'm going to be doing interoperability using Rhino inside Revit, and we need to make these conscious decisions. Do you need to make that decision on every single entity you model in Rhino? Yes. I mean, don't you need to make that decision on every single entity you model inside of Revit? I would hope so. I would hope you have a good reason why you're modeling something and the way it looks and where it is inside of Revit. That's called efficient modeling, yeah? So that's clear to everybody. I hope that as we move forward, that those decisions have to be made. I think what tends to happen is what happens now is that you get these merging of two very big communities. Now that this technology is going to merge, you have the Rhino and the Grasshopper community, and you have the Revit community, and they don't always see eye to eye, especially if they're kind of separate departments in your office or separate modelers. You know, they may not understand these concepts. So it's important that the Rhino user understands how this should manifest inside of Revit. Okay. Is that clear with everyone before we start some examples? Anything? Anybody? Got it. Good. Okay. Good. So when you're done with this, you can explain it away. All right. Okay, so let's do some examples. All right. So let's do some examples and we'll kind of see where this goes. All right, so we saw the RoMBIS. Huh, looks like I got a little mark here on my, hang on a second.
Yeah, Marcelo, you should be able to clear that. You're going to have to go to, in your presentation options, you can clear drawings that you've made. There you go, you got it.
Okay, what was that? What was that, Anthony? Sorry, I'm having
Oh
some
no, you
issues
got
here
it.
at the house.
Got it. You're in the clear. You got the markings and you got unmuted.
That was weird. I don't know what that came from. I thought it was on my monitor. First of all, I was like, oh, but anyway. Okay, so this is how it works. Ready? Open Revit, and then under here, under add-ins, it's going to be right here. Rhino. A Rhino in WIP means work in progress. It's just beta. Okay. Oh, maybe we should change the schematic drawings to work in progress. Maybe that would be a little easier to digest. I accidentally drew that earlier. Oh, we got some jokesters here in your user group. That's awesome. Okay, so basically you open Revit and then you open up Rhino, this little add-in, and then it's going to eventually create a new tab here called Rhinoceros, and that's where all your goodies are. Here we go. See, so now it creates inside of Revit. I'm using 2020.1 hotfix. Don't worry, anybody. This is the hotfix. 2020.1, Rhinoceros, and then now you've got these awesome tools. You can open up Rhino from here, Rhinoceros. You can open up Grasshopper. Okay, so let's open up Rhinoceros, and I'll just run some examples. I'll just run some examples from scratch. What the heck? Okay, so I have Rhinoceros open now. This is Rhinoceros inside, right? So if you were a Rhino user, anything up to this point, that would have been Rhinoceros outside. So if you open Rhinoceros from within Revit, it's called, I call it Rhinoceros inside. So this is Rhinoceros inside. You also know, because if you look down on my little control bar on the bottom, it doesn't actually show a Rhino session open. Why? Because it's all contained within Revit. Okay, that's clear enough. Any Grasshopper users here? Grasshopper, Sean, Alex, back in the day. Sean and Alex, okay. Grasshopper experts, Sean and Alex, yes? Not an expert, okay. Well, another cool thing right now about this technology is back like a month ago, a long time ago, using Rhino outside, in order to get Grasshopper to work, you'd have to open up Rhinoceros, then Grasshopper. Well, with this new technology, you don't even need to open up Rhino to get to Grasshopper. You can just fire up Grasshopper, boom, and you don't need to open up Rhino. It is a whole new concept, so just kind of let that settle in. The reason that is because now the idea is to get a Grasshopper script to a Revit user, and they won't even need to know how to use Rhino. So that's the idea. And so, in fact, in our office, we actually have some people who use Grasshopper who've never even opened up Rhino, because they don't need to know it. They just need to run the script. Will do certain things. One other cool thing too is there's actually a new thing on the block. I don't know why I'm not turning. Here we go. Is that there's one more thing here called Player. It's actually called Grasshopper Player, similar to Dynamo Player. So you won't even have an open Grasshopper if you wanted to run a script from Revit. You just go boom and hit Player, boom, it'll run script. Okay, that's the idea. Getting more tools to the Revit user. That's the idea. All right. Anyway, enough of that. Enough of that. All right. So we got Rhino. Let's go Rhino. Here we go Rhino. Okay. I don't know. Let's just build something. Let's build a box. Yay, a box. Okay. Let's build another box. Yay, another box. Maybe, yay, another box. Okay, 2 boxes, yay. So this may be representing your Rhino model and your concept design. How do you deal with inputs on the player if you don't open Rhino? Ho, 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 Alex, very good question. Very good question. Okay, I'll get to that in a minute, but very good question, Alex. You're already thinking kind of ahead and how player would work. That is awesome. I will answer that kind of as I move along. Okay, so basically I have two boxes. Let's say this represents two buildings. I'm doing something kind of off the wall. And then let's say we also have some lines in here, and maybe this represents like structural framing of a big canopy that crosses a building. I mean, the structural engineer would probably have a problem with this, but anyway, the idea is this is just concept, right? Okay, so the idea is we got buildings, some solids, some surfaces, and some lines, and they represent, a concept building. And let's say this was your design inside of Rhino. Okay, everyone likes my design? That's not off topic, Alex. Actually, by the way, nothing's off topic here. Good question, Alex. Okay, does everyone like my concept design? I'm actually a structural engineer, not an architect, so, forgive me. Beautiful. That's awesome. Okay. Okay. All right, and by the way, it meets code. I went through all, and just like an architect, right? I went through all the building codes, including all the addendums for all the city addendums, right? I also, for the foundation, I made sure that it fits within the envelope and that it's in the right place on the site. That means I also took the soils report and I read it cover to cover, right? Just like every architect does, so that I could make a decision on where the building would need to be. Did I get that right as well? Okay, perfect. Good. I thought so. All right, so where are we at? Okay, so let's say this is our concept design, right? And then you want to get this inside of Revit. Well, what do you want to do? Do you want these to be buildings inside of Revit? I mean, that makes not really a lot of sense, right? Do you want this building to be a mass in Revit? I mean, how useful would that be? Maybe what would be more useful is maybe if we extracted the perimeter of this and then put walls here. Maybe that would make more sense. And then maybe we take these center lines and turn them to structural beams. Maybe that would make sense. Do you want to see how that would play out using Rhino.Inside.Revit? Yes, walls and beams, yes. Okay, cool. Yeah, because otherwise it would be like, I just got to argue this one more time. A lot of people think that this technology, you just take this blob and you shove it in Revit, and then all of a sudden it has meaning. It doesn't, right? It's very personal to your workflow, so you have to make these decisions. Okay. So let's do that. Let's take this building. We'll call it building A, and then we'll turn these into structural beams. Okay, so how do we do that? All right, so we need to open up Grasshopper, because Grasshopper is the conduit, right, to pass information back and forth. And how are we doing on time? I can get this done in 19 minutes. I can get it done. Okay, so the first thing we need to do basically is we need to say, okay, let's take this bottom surface, get its perimeter, and put walls on it. Okay, so let's do that. I'm gonna move kind of a little quick here so that we get it done. All right, so the first thing we need to do technically is this is still Rhino geometry. In order to use Grasshopper, it has to be in Grasshopper geometry because they are technically two different things. Okay, they just are. So in order to do that, I'm going to go here and select geometry. I'm probably going to select, let's see here, we're going to do, probably do maybe BREP. Okay, and then this will basically, this will select the actual object itself and turn it to Grasshopper geometry, the whole thing. If you're not familiar with these concepts, I don't really have time to go over a lot of the basics, but it's not too bad. You can Google it. There's a lot of information on how this works. Okay, so now we only really want the bottom surface, right? So in order to do that, there's a few things we can do. I'm just kind of thinking on my toes here. What we could do is we could go to surface here and we can deconstruct the BREP. So I'm just gonna run through some things here. So I'm gonna deconstruct the BREP. Okay, now it breaks it out into faces. If you want to see something, it's kind of like a watch node. You put down this parameter, and then we can see all the faces. Okay, so here's all the faces we want. We want the bottom face. There are add-ins to do that. I think Wombat does that if you're a Grasshopper user. Anyway, we want the bottom surface. So a really cool trick here is I can actually hide this. There's a brand new node on the block called value set picker. And basically, if you feed in a list, you could actually select out of there the particular one that you want. Super watch node. It's like a super watch node, yeah. So basically, you see what I'm doing here? So let's see, if I put a surface down here, I think it would work like this. Then I can basically walk through here and figure out which one I have. Oh, there, see, there's the bottom one. It's that one right there. Okay, so now I have the surface that I want. Okay, so then all I need to do now is just get the perimeter curves off that surface. So let's see, how would we do that? There should be ones where I can actually get the edge curves. Everyone still with me? Did I lose anybody? Well, that's helpful. Sean, Sean's the Grasshopper user. Yeah, you didn't think you'd learn anything new about Grasshopper, huh? Unless you came here? Okay, cool. I'm just teasing you, Sean. Yeah, that's a brand new feature. Hot off the press. Cool. I'm glad you said it was useful. Are you recording this, Anthony? We're going to have to make sure we quote Sean on that.
We'll quote Sean.
We'll quote Sean on that. Okay. All right. So we can get the edges. I guess what I'll do is I'll just use this darn thing all over again, and then I'll just get the edges. So I'm just going to use a new rep, which happened to be this one, and then now I can get the edges, which are this one, and that's good enough. Okay, so now we have the edges of the bottom surface, which would come out of this particular output port. Yeah, okay, cool. So we got those. Let me turn this back on. Preview on. Okay, cool. We're good there. We're good there. Okay, now this is where all the magic happens. All right. So anyway, whatever I'm doing, I got the edges to that bottom surface. Okay. Okay. So basically now under Grasshopper, there's a tab called Revit. Under Revit, I can go to Build. Actually, it'd be under here. Under Wall, Add Wall, right there. Okay. So this node actually creates a wall in Revit using Grasshopper. So this is now called Grasshopper for Revit. Well, I call it that, but it's Grasshopper for Revit. Please do. Yeah. Okay. Everyone's still with me, sort of? All right. I'm just going to feed the curves into this input port. And it's already going to set some defaults like type, level, height. You can change all that, but for now, I'm just going to leave it all for this purpose. I'm just going to leave it all as defaults. If you want to change the type, you can come here and change the type. You could change the height. Probably the best thing to do would be to get the height of this cube and then assign that to the height. I'm not going to do that, okay, everybody? Just so we can kind of keep moving along. All right, so now actually, if you look here, I'm going to put another parameter, or what Anthony called the super watch node. And it looks like it actually built some things in Revit. So let's go take a look. So I'm going to minimize Grasshopper. I'm going to minimize Rhino.Inside, and we're going to take a look. Oh, look at that. So now it built the walls inside of Revit. Okay. Now they're not quite the right height, but I already explained how you can make the height. So I'm not going to bother with that. Okay. Anything from anybody? You like it? You don't like it? Not a big deal? Maybe it's not a big deal. You got to kind of do it for yourself, and then you'll feel that it's, you know, there's quite a bit here. Okay. So the idea here is if I change this and I make a change, say the shape changed or the building got bigger or whatever, since all that geometry is getting passed through Grasshopper, and then Grasshopper's building the wall, well, then it would automatically make the change inside of Revit. Okay, so the Revit would change. Okay. Is it live? It is. It is liver than live, Rod. It is liver than live. So so if I make the change, I guess I suppose we could try it. I can drag this over here and let's see if it makes the change. Now my beams are floating out in space. Structural engineer is going to kill us, but anyway, it would make the change. I guess it unselected my. Why did it unselect my surface? I don't know why. Oh, I guess that's not the right surface. There it is. Okay, did you see that change? Boom. Yeah. In fact, it actually previews the geometry inside of Rhino as well. Yeah, so they made the change. It's a little harder to see in Revit because you don't really have a good reference, but it did move. If you kind of remembered where it was before, right? Here's Revit. There's Revit, right? You saw that it moved. So it is totally live. 100%. That's the whole point. Okay. So we said that it's making a, I guess I didn't really explain it, but it's basically making a bi-directional link. Okay, it's not just a one-time thing, right? What would be the point of that? I don't see any point of that. I don't see any point of that because it would be meaningless, and we want things to be meaningful, right? So, good question there. All right, so we're with time. Got 10 minutes. Perfect. You want to do the beams, or do you want to see anything more with walls? Skyhooks. Is it live? Excellent. Beams. Let's see the beams. Okay. Beams. All right. So same kind of thing. Instead of getting the prep, which is basically a surface or a solid in Grasshopper talk, not in Rhino talk, in Grasshopper talk, then we're going to go here and say curve. Okay, so we're going to select the curve out of Rhino, out of Rhinoceros. Why? Because we got to get into Grasshopper geometry. Why? Because we need to use this, which is our beam creation node in Grasshopper that makes a beam in Revit, and it's asking for a curve. Okay, so we can't take these curves and shove them into the input port, right? We've got to first convert it to Grasshopper geometry. Okay, so how do we do that? What's really nice, I think, about Grasshopper is you can actually select them first, go right here and say set multiple curves, and then it'll automatically set it. Can you place wall by surface in case you have non-curvature surfaces you wanted to turn into a wall? Yes, you could, Sean. I'll explain that. I'll answer that question after I do this. Yeah, yes, you could. I'll answer that next. Okay, so here's the curves, right? Let's just feed them in, boom. It should build them. It probably gave it a default type. We'll just stick with default. And level 0 probably as default level. But okay, anyway, there you go. Let's look at them. Let's see. Here they are. They make me laugh because what did it use? Oh, it uses, oh, well, these are really long. These are 100 feet long. There's no way a 12 by 26 is going to work. No way. But anyway, you get the idea. So there's the beams. Us architects think it will. Oh, yeah. For you architects, if you want a rule of thumb, a 12-inch beam is going to probably span 24 feet maximum. And that's if it's composite and it's got concrete on it and studs and stuff on it. Definitely wouldn't work here. 100 feet? Oh man, you need probably you would need a custom section probably. Yeah, you'd need a custom section. But anyway, okay, so there we go. There's the beams. And those are also parametric. All right, now I want you to notice here, cool stuff. Hopefully cool stuff. Ron, yes, it is parametric and it is live. So if those curves moved, then these beams would move. All right, so here we go. Let's look at this really quick. I want to explain this concept. Do you see how there is a pin here? I'll show a direct shape import, yes. Do you see this pin here? If you unpin this, that severs the link between Revit and Rhino. Is that clear to everyone? The unpin severs the link. So now I can move it because the link is severed. So if you redo that, will it create another beam? No, it will not create another beam. Oh, in this case, yes, because I severed the link. Yeah. So the idea is, I mean, it is similar to Dynamo, except in Dynamo, if you took this and slid it away, it would just slide right back. What I'm trying to say is, you need to think about this from a workflow standpoint, right? And talk to your Revit users if you're the Rhino user, right? And you need to communicate with each other. Better baking action in Dynamo. Well, I mean, maybe I suppose it's doing the same thing. It's just a different way of looking at it. Because in Dynamo, if you delete a beam and then it pops back in place, then it's going to give it a different ID number. And that's the same thing that's happening here. If you unpin it, you sever the link, because there's no way to sever a link in Dynamo because of element binding. Better means it exists. Well, no, that's not true. I don't want to get too much into element binding, but anyway, you try it, play around with it, but the point is it's pinned. When it's pinned, it's being controlled by Rhino. Is that clear with everybody? What if you repin? No. If you repin, no. If you repin, no. Repin, no. No. Once you unpin, you severed it. So you're like, well, what if my users unpin? Or what if you tell your users not to unpin? You can look at it that way. How will they know you're using Rhino and they're using Revit? Well, you call them on the phone, or you email them, or you text them, or you team chat them, because you need to have communication with who's ever using these databases. Is that clear? Yes, okay, clear. Okay, so another question came in. How do you, and we'll do it with the other building. So these are like making native Revit elements, but maybe you don't need to do that. Maybe you're just kind of doing studies and you want to bring it in as a direct shape. You could do that. So let me just show you that example really quick. I don't remember who asked me that. Was that you, Alex? So basically, the idea here is, okay, maybe let's bring in this building as a direct shape. Okay, so the way it would work is what you would do is you would basically select it out. So I'm going to say select BREP. Now you don't have to select this way. You could actually say take everything on this layer, turn it into structural beams. Okay, you could do that if you wanted to. So maybe these curves are on one layer, and you're not selecting by this way. You're selecting all layers on structural beam S layer or something. Okay, so anyway, I'm going to do this. So I'm going to select this. I'm going to set my BREP here to this. Okay, now there's other creation methods here. If you look into the Revit tab, there's direct shape. Now there's direct shape, add BREP direct shape. This, if you use this, it will just send it in as a direct shape and put it on default everything and then give it a generic category. Okay, so that's kind of one way to do it. If you want it to be a little more sophisticated than that, then you could do direct shape, add geometry by direct shape. And this one gives you a little more control because now you're able to add a name. You're able to add a category. You know, maybe you want to use that road category that's never been used, or maybe you want to make it you know, I don't know, whatever. And then you basically feed in the geometry here. And you even have the ability to add material, which is cool, yeah? And then basically this direct shape would show up in Revit this way. Here it is. So that's your direct shape. That's your building as a direct shape in Revit, right? So maybe if this had a material on it and you're doing renderings in Enscape, I mean, maybe it makes sense to do it this way, right? I'm not here to tell you that. That is a decision that you make as a user. And you talk with your Revit user and you talk with your Rhino user if it's not you, or, you know, they're not the same person, I don't know, whatever. But the point is that every entity, you need to make a decision on what it should be, how it should look, and how it's going to move in the future, right? So if for example, you know that in Rhino, the reason this is so important is because you need to plan this out way in advance, right? Because for example, no, this building may not be here. Maybe it's just maybe it'll eventually go into phase 2 or something. Well, maybe you don't need to work out all the intricacies because you know when you're doing documentation that you'll ignore it eventually, or you know, that kind of thing. So maybe it can be a direct shape. You know, how are your Revit users going to use this information when they start to document, you know, that sort of thing. So all these decisions need to be made. Do you plan to bring this in a few times, and then at development design, when the design settles down and there's no more designing and all the pencils are down, right? That's what development design means. I understand, right? It means pencils down. The architects put their pencils down and they don't do any more designing, right? At the end of development design, and it's only just detailing and documentation. Is that correct? That's the way I understand the AIA definition of end of development design. Okay, good. That's what I thought. See, I knew it. Okay, so maybe you go to development design, and then Rhino, you sever the link and you never use Rhino again because you know there'll be no changes ever. Maybe you do that, right? So it's decisions you have to make along the way, you know, like it's very personal and workflow oriented. Okay, so let me see if I have any other comments to make before we kind of call it quits. Is everyone having a good time? Am I clearing this up for everybody? At least what it is and its potential? Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, I want to give you the full story here. I don't want to just tell you, you know. Okay, but let me point out a few more things that makes this technology so awesome. Is it doesn't just have to be about interoperability, because Grasshopper is now for Revit. You have Grasshopper for Revit. It will not replace Dynamo, because Dynamo still is integrally tied in with documentation and creating stuff with Revit. But there are some nodes that could help you do stuff like, say, for example, you wanted to select profiles out of Rhino and build them in Revit. There's nodes to do that. There's nodes to manipulate annotation, like you want to take all your annotation, maybe like in this case it's room names, you want to change them all to uppercase. Well, you actually have Dynamo nodes to do that too now, because you have the ability to create levels using Grasshopper. Sorry, I said Dynamo. Grasshopper now, right? There's this level creation node right here, add level. Okay. So then it brings up the question, if since there's geometry you can model in Rhino that you can't in Revit, how does this work with Rhino Inside? If you were to attempt to bring that geometry into Revit. Very good question. Let me first say this, Alex. Okay, that's a very good question, but let me just say this. I know you kind of saw this image, right? Maybe I'll flip that question on its head, which is not, since there's geometry that you can model in Rhino that you can't in Revit, I'm going to say maybe there's geometry that you feel more comfortable modeling in Rhino than Revit. You know, over the last 11 years, I've created a lot of crazy shapes inside of Revit. So far up to this point, I haven't found anything that you can't model inside of Revit. Case in point, this is a Southern White Rhino built inside of Revit that I brought into Rhino. I call him Billy because when I start saying Rhino Revit, the Rhino Revit, and the Revit Rhino, it gets confused. So this is Billy. I built Billy inside of Revit. I showed the McNeel people, they loved it. And this is how it looks when you bring it inside of Rhino. Because one thing I didn't explain is you can go from Revit to Rhino, and you can go Rhino to Revit. So I didn't really talk about going to Revit to Rhino. There are some times when you'd want to do that. But hi, you got to check out Marcello's model. Okay, so anyway, I'm saying, Alex and everyone else, if you have someone in your office who's more comfortable modeling inside of Rhino, let them model inside of Rhino. And then you can bring that geometry inside of Revit. Now, since you're bringing it inside of Revit, you have to be conscious about how Revit works, right? So Revit was never meant to model doorknobs, for example. So things down at that micro level, if you're modeling doorknobs and keyholes inside of Rhino and it doesn't translate into Revit, well, that's not a limitation of the link, right? That's a limitation of Revit. Okay, so all I'm saying is you got to be conscious of that. But other than that, things seem to translate pretty well, Alex. That is a very good question. I don't want to get into the weeds too much about that, but it's a good point. Okay, so then one more thing I want to mention here is that if you can do something in Grasshopper for Revit, that the same thing you can do Dynamo for Revit, why use Grasshopper for Revit? Like for this case, Dynamo can do this too. Dynamo can create Revit levels using, number input. And this is what Grasshopper's doing, okay? The advantage here is maybe the input of the elevation is not coming from something you manually create. Maybe it's coming from a top and bottom surface elevation that you pulled out of Rhinoceros, okay? So as you kind of think about, no, that would make sense. Okay, cool, Alex, I'm glad we're on board. So, kind of a different point here. It's good to look into other options that Grasshopper for Revit can give you, not just interoperability, because as you learn these tools, especially if you're Dynamo, it can really help. One more thing is I am actually in the process of producing a book right now. I'm actually running pages side by side. It's already 250 pages. I basically have Dynamo on the right, Grasshopper on the left. So that's how I'm doing it. So how do you build a Dynamo point? How do you do a Grasshopper point? So on all the way to like this one, right? How do you build a Revit level in Revit using Dynamo on the left? How do you do it using Grasshopper? How do you also get and set parameters using Dynamo? How do you get and set parameters using Grasshopper? So this is kind of on its way. Take a look. And don't forget this image as you look at this technology. Or really anything else, I suppose. Right? No easy button. It's a piece of gold. Shape it yourself, and you will have awesomeness. Okay, Anthony, I think it's a good time to take it in for a landing.
Marcello, that was amazing. I don't know about the rest of you guys, but I'm feeling pretty inspired. It's pretty cool technology. So I guess we're over the hour, and really all I can say is, Marcello, thank you for your time and sharing kind of your knowledge. And I think we're all just really grateful. So does anyone have anything else they want to chime in on? Sounds like a no, which works for me. So, hey, again, this was RoMBIS with Marcello, and this was really cool. So thank you everyone for stopping by. Thank you again, Marcello. And I guess we'll go ahead and sign off.